I sat down to tell you something before I cannot tell you anything at all. I am old enough to know what that means. It means I have watched enough people die to stop being afraid of death and start being afraid of something worse. I am afraid of how much truth a person can carry for 60 years without ever letting it out. I am afraid of how much a person can understand when there is no longer enough time to do anything with that understanding. My name is Clara Beulah Mast. I was born in 1855 in central Ohio, in a farmhouse with a dirt floor and 6 brothers and sisters, and a mother who never stopped working until the day she lay down and could not get back up. I came west as a child in a wagon with my family when I was 8 years old. I have seen Nebraska before it was tamed. I have seen what this land can give, and I have seen what it can take. I am not here to tell you about the past. I am here to tell you about you, about what you are doing right now that you do not see yet, about the mistakes you are making that I made and the ones I paid for with everything I had. You think your life is stable. You think you have built something solid. You think the good years will keep coming because they have been coming. You believe what you have now will still be there when you are ready to appreciate it. I thought that too. I was wrong. Let me tell you about the year the drought came. I was 26 years old. I had been married to my husband George for 4 years. We had 2 children. Our daughter Millie was 3. Our son Thomas was 14 months old. We had land outside a small settlement in Jefferson County, Nebraska. George had worked that land with everything he had. I had worked beside him. We had dug our own root cellar. We had built our own smokehouse. We had planted, harvested, preserved, prayed, and survived 2 hard winters already, and come out the other side, believing we were capable of making something real there. We had earned it, I thought. We had worked hard enough to deserve it. That is what I believed. That if a person works hard enough, the world will honor that. The sky decided otherwise. That year, the rain simply stopped. Not all at once. It stopped the way hope sometimes leaves. Slowly at first, then completely. By June, the ground was cracking. By July, the cornfield George had planted was standing dry and brittle in the heat, like it had never been green at all. By August, 2 of our 4 hogs were dead. By September, we were rationing. By October, we understood what kind of winter we were heading into. There is something that happens to a person when they realize the thing they depended on is gone. First comes practical thinking. You start calculating, solving, moving. George rode to town to ask about credit. I kept tight accounts on what we had in the cellar. You keep moving because movement feels like control. But slowly, under the movement, something else begins. Something that does not have a name, but that every farmer who has ever been ruined by weather knows exactly. It is the understanding that the ground beneath you is not yours. It never was. You just lived on top of it for a while. Thomas got sick in January. He was already too thin. Children that age need fat on them for winter, and he did not have it. We had not had enough since October. I boiled what I could. I did what I knew to do. I sat with him through 3 straight nights without sleeping. I held him in the rocking chair my mother had given me when Millie was born. He died in February. He was not yet 2 years old. I am not going to dress that in gentler words. There are no gentler words. He died. My son died. The earth had done it because the sky had refused to rain, and we had nothing, and he was too small for a Nebraska winter without enough to eat. I am telling you this, not so you will feel sorry for me. I am 71 years old. I do not need your sorrow. I am telling you this because it cracked open everything I had believed about how life works, and I want you to hear what came out of that crack before you have to learn it the same way. Here is what I believed before that year. I believed that if you were responsible, life would be responsible back. That suffering was mostly the result of poor planning, weak character, or bad choices. That the people who lost everything had somehow failed to hold on hard enough. I did not say this out loud, but I believed it, the way you believe things you have never examined. I had prepared, I had worked, I had held on, and my son was still dead. That was the end of that belief. I want to ask you something honestly. Do you believe that if you do the right things you will be protected? That hard work, right choices, right living will keep the worst away from your door? You do. Most of you do. That belief is a comfort. I understand why you hold it. But it is not the truth. And the longer you hold it, the harder the moment will be when life corrects you. Life does not care about your preparation. It does not review your efforts and decide you have done enough to be spared. It does not exempt the careful. It can take everything from anyone, at any time, without warning and without reason. The sooner you understand that, really understand it, not as a dark thought you occasionally have, but as a working truth you build your life around, the differently you will spend your days. Life is not a transaction. There is no ledger where your effort is recorded and balanced against what you receive. No arrangement between hard work and protection. Life is simply going. And so the only things worth doing are the things that have value in themselves, regardless of what they produce. Being honest with your husband. Saying the thing to your child that needs saying. Letting yourself be reached. Those do not guarantee protection. Nothing does. But they leave something behind that the drought cannot touch. George and I did not speak much after Thomas died. Not because we did not love each other, but grief does something strange to a marriage. It either pulls two people together, or it puts a silence between them that neither one knows how to cross. We got the silence. I was waiting for him to come to me. He was waiting for me to come to him. We were both waiting. Neither of us crossed. That silence lasted years. Not always heavy. We had Millie, we had work. We had the life that continued whether we were ready for it or not. We did not talk about Thomas much. Not because we did not think about him, because neither one of us could afford to collapse, and talking about him meant collapsing. But the silence had its cost. Near the end of his life, we had one honest conversation in the kitchen. He told me he had thought about Thomas every single day, that the silence was not distance. It was the only way he knew to hold himself together. I realized I had spent 30 years believing something about that man that was not true. He had lived beside me believing the same thing in reverse. We had both been quiet. We had both been wrong. And we had spent 30 years in a marriage that could have been warmer, truer, closer, if either one of us had crossed that silence when it was still narrow enough to cross. George died 2 years after that conversation. 2 years. That is what the silence cost us. You have a silence like that somewhere. In your marriage, maybe. With one of your children. With your mother or your father while they are still alive to hear you. A silence that has become familiar enough that you have stopped seeing it as a problem. You call it just how we are. You call it, I am not the emotional type. You say they know how I feel. They do not know how you feel. Say it plainly. While the silence is still narrow enough to cross, because if you wait long enough, you will have one honest conversation with the person you love, and they will be gone 2 years later, and you will spend the rest of your life understanding exactly what the waiting cost you. I was considered a strong woman. In my community, in my time, that was the highest compliment. Strong meant she kept going when things were hard. Strong meant she held the household together. Strong meant she buried her child and still had supper on the table. I was all of those things. And being strong the way I was strong cost me more than the drought did. The drought took my son. Being strong the way I was strong took 30 years of closeness with my husband. It took something with Millie I will tell you about. It took the warmth in my home that I did not fully understand I was missing until I was old enough to sit still and count what I did not have. What the people around you actually need is not your strength. They need your presence. They need your honesty. They need to know you can be reached, that something lands on you, that you are a person underneath the function. When you are only strong, the people who love you stop trying to get close. Not because they do not want to, because strength, sustained long enough, looks like a wall, and people do not knock on walls. They move on. Or they grow up watching you be strong, and they learn to be strong too, and suddenly you have a family full of people who cannot reach each other. That is what happened with Millie. My daughter watched me hold everything together her whole childhood. She watched me bury Thomas. She watched me survive the drought and the debt and the hard years after. She watched me keep the household running through all of it without falling apart. She learned what I modelled. She became a strong woman, reliable, capable. She married a solid man and raised 4 children and built a life that held. I was proud of her for it. But she and I were never close, not the way I wanted to be. We were respectful, loyal. We showed up for each other when it mattered. But the warmth, the kind that comes from knowing someone all the way through, we never had it. I used to tell myself that was just how we were, that some mothers and daughters are close that way and some are not. That is not true. It was my fault. I had taught her from the beginning that feelings were things you managed, not things you showed. That love was expressed through doing, not through saying. She learned what I taught her. When she was in her 30s and I was in my 50s, I tried to change it. I tried to ask her things I had not asked before, tell her things I had kept to myself. And she would look at me with an expression I recognized because I had worn it myself for 30 years. Careful, willing to receive what I was offering, but not quite knowing how. I had built her that way, and I was not young enough anymore to fully undo what I had built. You think you will soften later, when things are less busy, when the children are older. You are telling yourself there is a warmer version of this relationship coming. After you get through this stretch, you are building the relationship right now. Every day you solve instead of feel. Every day you are strong instead of honest. Every day you wait to say the thing you should say today. That is the relationship you are creating, not the one you intend to have, the one you are actually making with the choices you are making this week. After George died, Millie took me in. I lived in her house for 11 years. She was good to me, dutiful, exactly the way I had raised her to be. She made sure I was fed and warm and cared for when I was sick. She did everything a daughter should do. But I was lonely, not because she was cruel, not because she did not love me in her way, but because we had never built the kind of closeness that makes company something different from proximity. We lived in the same house, and we were not strangers, and we were not enemies, and we were also not the kind of mother and daughter who could sit in the same room in the evening and feel anything other than two people in a room. I had built that across 30 years of modelling the wrong things. I sat in that room some evenings and understood, finally and completely, what I had spent most of my adult life doing. I had been enduring, functioning, surviving and managing and holding things together. I had been in the room. I had not been present. And now I was in a room with my daughter for 11 years, and we could not be fully present with each other either, because I had not known how to teach her that, and she had learned too well what I did know how to teach. Some of you are doing exactly this right now. You are in the house. You are providing. You are keeping the structure running, and you call it love. And it is a form of love. But presence is not the same as provision. Being there is not the same as being reached. Doing is not the same as feeling together. Your children are watching you right now, the way Millie watched me. They are deciding what a family is, what love looks like, whether feelings are something you express or something you manage, whether the people closest to you are people you can actually reach. You are teaching them this every single day. What are you teaching them? I want to say something about regret, because I think people have it badly wrong. People treat regret like it is the enemy. Have no regrets, they say. Like the goal is to reach the end of your life and feel fine about all of it. That is wrong. Regret means you looked at what you did and were honest enough to see it clearly. That takes something. The problem is not regret. The problem is late regret. Regret that comes when there is still time to act is one of the most useful things a person can have. It is the thing that makes you cross the silence while it is still narrow. It is the thing that makes you put the work down and sit with your wife. It is the thing that makes you tell your child what you feel before they are grown and built of everything they learned from your distance. Regret when there is still time is a gift. I had most of mine when the time was mostly gone. Look at your life now. Look at the silences you have decided to live with, the things you have planned to feel later, the conversation you keep meaning to have once you find the right words, the version of yourself you keep meaning to become. Your regret can do something right now. Use it. The drought was not the worst thing that happened to me. I want you to hear that clearly. The worst thing was not the year the sky stopped giving. The worst thing was the decade after the drought, when I was alive and healthy and had people around me who loved me, and I spent those years functioning instead of feeling, providing instead of being present, enduring instead of reaching toward the people who needed to be reached. The drought I could not control. What I did with the years after the drought was mine. You are in the middle of those years right now. The ordinary ones. The ones that will not feel ordinary when they are gone. The Tuesday evenings, and the Sunday dinners, and the quiet moments that feel like nothing at the time. Those are the years. Those quiet stretches are the life. Not the crisis, not the recovery. The ordinary middle, when nothing dramatic is happening and the people you love are simply there. Those are the ones I would go back to if I could. Not to change the drought, not even to save Thomas, though God knows I would if I could. I would go back to be different in the years that surrounded all of it. To put the work down in the evening and sit with George and say the things I had not said. To let Millie see that I was a person who could be shaken, so she would grow up knowing it was allowed. to waste a little more time on love and a little less on structure. I am 71 years old. I have buried my son. I have buried my husband. I have outlived 3 of my closest friends from those early Nebraska years. I had the honest conversation I needed with George 2 years before I lost him. I have spent 11 years in my daughter's house, being cared for in all the practical ways, and lonely in the way that practical caring cannot touch. I know what I know. You still have time. Not unlimited time, not the time you think you have. But you have today. You have whoever is in your house right now. You have whoever you have been meaning to call. You have the thing you have been meaning to say, and the person you have been planning to reach toward once things settle down. Things do not settle down. They just continue until they stop. Cross the silence now, while it is still narrow enough to cross. Say the thing you are saving for the right moment. The right moment is before it is too late. That is the only right moment there is. Put the work down tonight and be with the person you love in a way they can feel. Let them see you can be reached. That something lands on you. The sky can simply stop tomorrow. What will they carry of you when it does? Make it something real, before you cannot.